Well, first of all, congratulations on the award, and thanks for joining us. So, tell us about the cube, where the very interesting design morphology came from. How'd you come up with this shape? What inspired the design? Was it local conditions or something else?
Yeah, you could say it was basically started from local constraints, because we had a relatively small and difficult spot. The spot is sloping, as you may know. And in Lebanon there is a very strict regime on building a maximum amount of meters. So we couldn't build, for instance, more than I think 5,000 square meters. But at the same time the client wanted to go to the maximum height that he could achieve on this location, which was not so high, but just over 50 meters. So we invented a concept where we could actually stack this maximum amount of square meters up to the maximum height. So that's why the tower is relatively slim. And then we came up with this concept to rotate every floor 90 degrees to have, you could say, excellent and unique orientation and experience on every floor.
So that every floor would be different?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the thing was that it's on a slope and it has a free view. So it has a free view to the seaside and it has a free view to the mountainside. So it has an overall exposure, you could say. Yeah. And the thing was like, you have in Beirut, it's like a mild climate. And it is super if you have your a big apartment with a balcony, a large balcony. So therefore we have the stacking sticking out. So each volume, if each volume is sticking out, then you have automatically a terrace because you use the roof of the other apartment as a balcony for your own apartment. So this is a very simple concept, and in the end it appeared to be a very powerful concept also.
And how does it react to the local site, to the local conditions in Beirut?
Well, it's a very simple way of building, you could say, because everything was poured inside in concrete. So there is like a concrete culture to make everything not prefabricated, but just traditionally, you could say. So we anticipated to that with this kind of expressive structure. We knew that they could do it in poured inside concrete, so we thought, let's see how we can use that to the max. And furthermore, you could say the building anticipates, as Patrick already said, especially to its scenic settings. So 360-degree panorama, optimizing outdoor space, and we wanted to make for this city an extravagant building, because the city is extravagant, is you could say expressive, outgoing. People are resilient, are very also on appearance, you could say. So we thought it was important to relate to that culture, and maybe not unimportant as well, that the client asked us explicitly to make a very special, iconic building. So as an architect, of course, it's a very nice request when you're asked to make something really special. So we thought, well, then we will make you something.
And it sounds like, though, that you're balancing that classic conundrum of, if you want to be iconic, you've got to stand out by definition, but you also want to be a part of where you are and not just feel like a spaceship that got dropped into.
Yeah, but that's, and in the end, it's I think it's a question maybe with every building. Maybe not if it's the budget is maybe not there. But on the other hand, it gives us kind of a freedom. So if the client says, go whatever you want to go, just make me something special, that gives us kind of a give us a creative freedom, and that we used. And that's also that you not always see with every client. And that's especially important for this building. And also when we visited Beirut, we have this extravaganza. You have the beach on the one hand, and you have the mountains where you can ski on the other hand, some kilometers further away. It's a special condition, also the special position in the Mediterranean. But then the buildings, if you look at the buildings in the city, they're just like everywhere in the Middle East or in the Mediterranean. And then we said, yeah, we personally missed the really building that has this Beirut feeling, and that's also one of the things we try to achieve.
You mentioned the concrete, and this building uses self-consolidating concrete. Tell us what that is and how it was employed in this building.
It's a concrete that can take a higher pressure load. So I don't know all the technical aspects of it, but it's especially used for concrete that you can put more load on, so to say. And we needed it because, as you know, maybe we always explain the building as a Jenga structure. We have 2 blocks in one direction, and then we have 2 sticks in a 90 degrees turn direction. And like this, the building is tilted every individual layer. But of course, in the end, all the loads have to go down on only the crossing of the girders, which is, the girder is 35 centimeter. So it's a surface of only 35 by 35 centimeters, 4 times on every floor. And therefore, a special type of concrete was used to get the loads, the loads from the building itself, of course, but also the changeable loads to get them down to the foundation without any other help in construction, you could say.
Yeah. Because you have 4 points, and there's a lot of steel going through these joints. As what Jeroen said, 35 by 35. So only 4 points, or 35 centimeters in square. You have to bear the whole building from the outer facades and the core, of course. Yeah. But there's a lot of steel, and if you have normal concrete, it doesn't get with a lot of steel and a lot of concrete. You need concrete that is self-consolidating, so it gets the air out, so you have the pressure loads you need.
Was this your first project in Beirut?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, we don't often have Beirut represented at the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat. What's going on there? Do you feel like there's more of an appetite for tall buildings? Is it a booming city right now? I mean,
yeah. Yes, it is actually. Yeah, and a lot of also interesting buildings are being realized. There is this nice Lebanese architect Kouri, who's doing some really nice project at the moment. But for also, for instance, office like Herzog and de Meuron from Swiss, they're doing this Beirut Terraces building. I think it's almost finished, or maybe it's already finished. So what you see is, of course, the city got bombed quite a few times and destroyed in the past decades. But there has always been this resilience to rebuild itself. And people, as we noticed when we went there, it's like dancing on the brim of the volcano. It's in a very, you could say, disturbed area, as everybody knows. I mean, the neighbors are Syria and Iraq and Iran. And
sure, it's one of the epicenters of the migrant
Egypt,
crisis.
Turkey. Exactly, exactly. But what we found explicitly impressive was that people still have this tendency to live, you could say, explicitly to live, maybe. And there is quite a rather big population of people that are relatively rich, you could say. It's a trading nation, Lebanese people, like Dutch. That was a good click. And so there is a tendency, yes, for new buildings and higher buildings and impressive buildings and nice initiatives, definitely, also architecturally. Yeah.
So what's next for Orange Architects?
Good question. We do a few
next?
projects
in Russia.
In Russia, in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, we won a competition in St. Petersburg
with KCP, another Dutch office, together. We just started with it. It's a big project for the harboring area of St. Petersburg. We do a few new projects in Amsterdam, which are actually our first projects in Holland.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's with Dutch architects and working only abroad with Orange.
How did that come about?
Yeah, that's a strange story. Yeah, we met in Shanghai. We met also another friend, and then we combined forces. And we have also other offices, so it's so we're not unexperienced. And for our foreign adventures, we combine forces, and it's called Orange, as orange is the color of Holland, the royal house. And yeah, so we end up in Saudi Arabia, in Lebanon, and Russia. Yeah, Netherlands now also.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult being like a truly global firm in that sense, that you have to be able to adapt to so many different cultures and cities and still maintain your own
Yeah, but that's that's a nice thing to do, and it's a natural thing to do for us because we don't have a style or something. What we have a question from the client, and that's maybe a cliche, but if you give an answer or you give a better answer than he expects, yeah, that's the thing we do.
We like to answer to different situations explicitly, so different contexts, and we like to answer these for us, of course, new situations. If we go to countries abroad, we can look at them through, you could say, unexperienced eyes, and we find out fresh eyes. Exactly. Yeah. We find out that we come up with in this way with newer and fresher ideas than maybe people who already live on this location or on this spot can come up with. And no, so we find it very inspiring, actually, to respond in a very contemporary way with new techniques, with let's say experience that we bring, of course, from Holland to for us unusual situations and surroundings. And as Patrick said, we founded the office 6 years ago in the crisis in Holland, but we also have offices that work in Holland, of course. But we founded Orange originally to work abroad. But maybe also by the success of the Cube at this moment, we are also starting projects in Holland. So, but it was the inverse way of working, actually. First starting to work outside of Holland, and now starting in Holland as well. Yeah.
Well, we'll keep an eye on all that work. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.